Hello everyone, I'm Vaibhav Gupta, and in this video, we'll see how to perform data visualization with basic graphs on the Zeppelin notebooks. So let's get started. Here, I'm assuming that we'll be using Google Cluster to perform our data analytics. So I'm going to share my screen. Now, as you can see on the screen, first let's start by creating our own cluster on the Google Cloud. So for that, we'll go on the data proc, and inside that, the clusters option. Here you can create your own cluster where you'll name your cluster, you'll select the region and the zone, then the cluster mode, whether you want the standard one or the high availability one with the 3 master nodes. Then on the basis of the data size that we have and the analytics that we want to perform, we'll select a machine size of the master node. Here I'm keeping it pretty standard. Then we'll select our primary disk size and our worker nodes configuration and how many number of worker nodes that we need. So these will depend on how much data that I have and how much complex my analytics will be. After that, if you want to analyze and if you want to use Zeppelin notebooks or the Jupyter notebooks, it's better to enable the web interface so that we can access those using our browser. So click on this and then go to the advanced options. Here we will have options to select all different settings. In this, we can go under the optional components and then we'll do select components. And here I'm going to select Zeppelin notebook, Jupyter notebook, and with Anaconda library. Once you go select, then you can select which type of encryption you want, and then you will create the cluster. I've already created the cluster for you named demo. Once the cluster has been provisioned and it's running, then you can click on the cluster, go to the web interface option, and here you will find the option for Jupyter Lab and for Zeppelin. Here we'll go to the Zeppelin link. Now we have reached the Zeppelin notebooks. So we can start by creating our own node. If we are using Spark, then we'll make sure that our default interpreter will be the Spark. I have also created a demo node for the data visualization. It's a pretty simple 3 line of codes. So the good thing about the Zeppelin is it already creates, when you are using Spark as a default interpreter, it already creates a Spark session for you and the Spark context. So I can use Spark session by directly using the Spark variable. And I can import to write the code in the Python and I can use PySpark by using the PySpark option before writing my code in the paragraph. Similarly, I can use the SQL by mentioning the %SQL before writing my code. Since it's a pretty simple line of code, I don't need to import any packages, but you can define what all packages you want to import. So I'm going to run this code first. This is going to read my file and input into a data frame. This is, so now it's complete. After that, if I want to visualize my data, I better store it into a temporary table so that I can run my SQL queries or Hive queries on that. So I'll save my input frame into an error table. So yeah, once it's finished, now I can use that error table to run SQL queries. Now we can run all kind of SQL queries and we can visualize the data accordingly. I'm just using the select star from error table. So now as you can see on the screen, I have different options. There's a basic graph and I have all the different options on how I want to visualize a graph, whether I want a pie chart, whether I want an area chart or a line chart or just a scatter plot. Here you can mention your keys, your values. If you are If you want a scatter plot, then you can mention your x-axis and your y-axis, and your graph will update on the real time. So this is on the basics of how we can visualize data using the Zeppelin. If your SQL context is giving some error, or when you're running the select star from error table and is giving an error, just make sure that you go to the interpreter. Here you can find the settings for all the different interpreters which are available on Zeppelin, and just go under the Spark and make sure that all your Spark settings and your SQL context settings on the Spark values are assigned correctly. I'll go back to my notebook now. So this is all about how we can visualize data using Zeppelin. And I hope that whenever you'll be performing analytics, this data visualization will be helpful. Thank you.